It's the best segments from the Morning Buzz with Kat Peterson.
No, that's not. We're not doing this. We're not doing this. We're not doing this. We're not doing this.
From across the room. You've been discriminating against me and discriminating against some people in the briefing room. And I'm saying that this is the US, this is not China, this is not Russia. This is not Russia.
Okay.
What you are doing, you are making a mockery of the First Amendment.
Decorum, please.
It's been 7 months. You've not called on me. You've ignored my messages. I'm saying that's not right. That's not right.
Fun times. Welcome, guys. Welcome. Welcome to the press briefing room. Okay.
Some people, but this is not right.
Simon Acheba. He's joining me right now on the line. He's the chief White House correspondent for Today's News Africa. And go follow him on Twitter. Simon, I am an avid follower of yours on Twitter, and I look forward to everything you put out. And thanks so much for being here on the Morning Buzz with me, Kat Peterson. Now, let's talk about what happened. So what kind of question were you asking her? Why did she respond in that way? Did she wind up kicking you out of the press briefing room? What exactly led up to the chaos?
Yeah, thank you, Kat, for having me. I'm always grateful to be here. So when you do your job in that Biden briefing room, they come for you, they try to sideline you, and they try to discriminate against you, which is what has happened to me in the past 7 months. In the past 7 months, she's not called on me, even as President Biden was hosting 50 African leaders for the U.S.-Africa Summit last December. Even as the Vice President Kamala Harris is traveling to Africa next week, and even as the First Lady just returned from Africa. The guy who covers the White House for Africa in the Biden White House doesn't get even one question when the First Lady is traveling to Africa, when the Vice President is traveling to Africa, when President Biden is hosting 50 African leaders in Washington, D.C. Is discrimination, and it happens because I'm doing my job. Once you do your job, once you ask the tough questions, once you don't send your questions, topics in advance, they try to silence you, and that's what happened yesterday. It just became public yesterday, but, I don't go to the White House to attack anyone, to yell a question. I go to the White House like everyone else, and I sit there for 7 months, and I raise my hand, I send emails, I go to her office to try to meet with her, but I realized I'm being discriminated against. Actually, it's not just me. I realized that Africa is being disrespected by this particular White House.
Right. You have an obligation to cover the White House on behalf of Africa, right? You're the chief White House correspondent for Today's News Africa. And do you think, and I know this is going to come off, but we're at this point here, you mentioned discrimination. Do you think it's because you're from Africa? And I know that Karen Jean-Pierre, she's black, but is this a form of racism?
Yeah, she's black. It's worse than racism. They look down on me. They believe that I don't have their resources. I don't have their money. And I wasn't born here. But I've actually been doing great work for the U.S.-Africa relations for a long time. I used to work in African countries. I was always covering U.S. embassies, trying to strengthen ties. And what we do at Today News Africa is just to strengthen ties between the U.S. and Africa at a time where China is rising, Russia is rising, and all of them are spreading disinformation against the U.S. And I'm just trying to do the right thing. I'm saying that, the First Amendment protects free speech, the freedom of the press, association, assembly, and you don't need to like me to give me questions or to take questions or to call on me in the briefing room. You don't need to like my question. Those are things that happened in Russia, in China, in dictatorship, in several countries in Africa, where if you ask the wrong question, they jail you, they come after you, they silence you, they sideline you. I don't think the U.S., is one of those countries. The reason the U.S. remains the most advanced country in the world is because of those basic freedoms. And she's making a mockery of the First Amendment, which is really sad.
Now, what do you think about this reporter who actually apologized to Karen Jean-Pierre over saying, hey, why are you kicking me out of this press briefing? What do you think about your colleagues and the fact
It-
that they didn't come to your defense? Me
no,
personally, I've
no,
got a
so,
journalism degree. I would have come to your defense if I was in
yeah,
that press
no,
briefing room.
no, it happened. So, just imagine the briefing room where 99% of questions go to the same people, the first and the second rows. So what I'm doing is actually challenging the status quo. And they won't be happy with it. It was a disgrace. Dick Miller of the AP, the Associated Press, actually apologized to Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre. He's a disgrace to journalism, a disgrace to the First Amendment. You know,
Mm.
and I think because people become entitled, when you sit in the first row and you get questions every single day, it doesn't occur to you that there are people behind you who are there for 1 year and they don't get called on even once. So you don't have the basic decency and even the awareness to understand that, hey, because I get questions, multiple questions every single day, there are people behind me who also represent the American people. I may be born in Africa, but we focus on U.S.-Africa relations. And I have 2 degrees in journalism and mass communication. I'm not inferior. I'm Simon Ateba, and I believe that I have the right to do my job. The First Amendment protects me, to just do my job. And what they are doing now is stonewalling me, and preventing me from doing my job, which is really sad.
Yeah. Well, Simon, I feel for you. And one thing I did want to ask, was there a question that you had that you wanted to get answered? And do you remember what the question was that you wanted to get answered and get called on?
Yesterday I had questions on, the VP trips to Africa, but I also wanted to ask about Ukraine. Last week the president, one of the White House spokespersons, John Kirby, said that now is not the time for a ceasefire between Ukraine and Russia. And so I wanted to ask him, when is the right time? Because right now China is becoming, the peacemaker. They are making China to become that global power that actually replaces the U.S. You just saw what happened when they broke up peace, in Saudi Arabia. And now, the president of China is in Russia trying to broker peace between Russia and Ukraine, while the U.S., the most advanced, the most powerful country in the world, has taken a seat, a seat back, and which is unfortunate.
Simon, you're asking all the right questions. I hope that you get those answers, because you're so right. China recently, very recently, they've brokered peace. They've broke bread with Russia. And then also in Saudi Arabia, we even had people over there in Afghanistan, right? And we pulled all those people out, and we had people over there trying to broker some sort of peace in the Middle East and in these countries for 20 years, and we weren't even able to do it. China goes in there one day, and then they've brokered a peace deal. But Simon, we've got to go. I appreciate you calling in. And anything else that you want to add? And how do we get a hold of you or follow you?
Thank you. I just want people to subscribe to my Substack, simonateba.substack.com, or just follow me on Twitter at Simon Ateba, SIMON. Ateba is ATEBA.